All right, here we go. Take 32. We're going to talk about this, Justin. Miami's in a good position here. They control their own destiny for the ACC championship. 2 games to go. They play Florida State and Pittsburgh with the loss to Virginia. So let's get right into this. Justin, just how excited are you about this team, about with where they are? We're going to get into a big picture of what it looks like. We're going to preview the FSU game, kind of our thoughts on the players too. But how's it going and your thoughts right now?
Thanks, Chris. Happy to be back as always. It is as exciting of a time in basketball as it's been over the last 10 years since the 2013 team. So I love this team. I think they're built for a deep run in the big dance. One step at a time. Gotta win out here and get that ACC championship regular season. But like you said, they control their own destiny, and it's really an exciting time to watch this team.
Justin, when we first did this, our first season preview, there were a couple things that we said, going back to then, and it kind of brought up some memories earlier this week. I saw a comment in particular, one comment in particular about this team on the message board on InsideTheU.com about how nobody expected Miami to have a season like this. And I remember our bold predictions. You said Miami would win the ACC title. I said they'd finish second. At this point, I'm willing to correct myself there. But the point was, Miami was predicted fourth in the ACC coming into a predicted finish, and we both like this team, coming into it, and it's delivered a lot of excitement, and we'll definitely talk about things moving forward. But what has been your takeaway about essentially what you thought of back then, but also just as the season has progressed, what has really stood out to you about this team?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We had some high expectations that seem to be fitting now. The core was there, that same core from last year for the most part with Wong and Jordan Miller, at least to me, that's the core right there. And I think the question marks were, what are we going to get out of Nijel Pack? A lot of hype there, off to a slow start. And then, of course, Omir, is he going to translate into the ACC, which he definitely has. So I think with those guys being better than expected or as good as expected, and then getting the jump from guys like Poplar and Bensley, hey, we're right here. I mean, we predicted this, and this team is made to make a run. So I think we had high hopes, and rightfully so. This team's a real deal.
So let's set the stage for everybody right now. 2 games left, both at home. Pittsburgh is going to be the conclusion on March 4th. That's going to be a huge game. And then Florida State coming up on this Saturday, 4 o'clock at the Watsco Center on ESPN2. Justin, what stands out to me after the loss to Virginia, and just to shake it out here. So Miami 14-4. Virginia and Pittsburgh are chasing Miami now at 13-4. Miami's got an extra game that they've played, and Miami owns the tiebreaker over Virginia. And if they beat Pittsburgh, they would go ahead of them in the standings. That's why they control their own destiny. There's other ways Miami can still win the conference, but if they win the final 2, they've got it. Justin, the thing that stands out to me right now is all of a sudden Miami has floated a little bit under the radar. And I know that they've been at the top of the conference most of the year, top 4. They're in position to do that. A win on Saturday would clinch a top 4 seed. But now they've got a lot of attention on them, a lot of pressure now because they can win the title. And I think that they've been chasing the top for a long time. At one point before this 7-game winning streak, they were 7-4, tied for 5th. And essentially just kind of chasing everybody else. Now that they've caught them and now that they're officially in first place, it's a lot different at the top. And I'm curious to see how this team responds to that with the attention. They still have a very good team, a better team than Florida State, 8-20 for Florida State, 6-11. They're tied for 11th in the conference. They've lost their last 4, 7 of 8. So they're really struggling. But I'm curious how Miami responds to now the pressure. Luckily, it's at home, these next 2.
I feel the same way. At the end of the day, it's still Florida State. Not only is it a rivalry game, but they're a great basketball program. I don't think Leonard Hamilton wants to come in here and see us win an ACC championship. So they're going to give it all they have. I'm not ready to look past Florida State. We got to come out, got to win that game. Like you said, it's different when you're at the top. All the pressure's on. Got to handle business, and then we move on to Pittsburgh. So I love that we're at home. This team is incredible at home. The atmosphere is incredible. And I think we'll handle business, but, 1 game at a time.
And Miami beat Florida State earlier this year, had a big 86-63 win in Tallahassee. So they played really well. Again, Florida State, what's interesting about that game was Florida State was actually playing a little bit better than they had after that terrible 1-9 start. And one of those wins, again, they've lost 7 of 8, but before that, they won at Pittsburgh. And certainly Pittsburgh's had a good team, and that's why they're in contention. So there is potential. And the way I always look at games like this is, Leonard Hamilton, look, Miami's been the better team. He could tell his team Miami's had the better team, the better season, but we just have to be better today. And I think that'll be the thing Florida State will be focused on, be better on that day. What are some things in this game that maybe to watch for? I know the crowd's going to be really into it, but maybe some keys now that they have all the attention, all the home crowd, the expectations of winning and against a team that has struggled this year.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds cliche, but I feel like you got to just do what you've been doing, stay within yourself, stay in your lane. Don't try to come out and do something new and different and crazy now that the pressure's on. Like you said, it's going to be a loud environment, which I think is going to be great for us. And I think it was, if I remember correctly, that Florida State game, we had lost like 5 or 6 in a row before that. So now maybe we can start a little streak against them. We won earlier this year, get another one here, but more of the same. I mean, nothing out of the ordinary. Just need everyone to keep doing what they're doing. A lot of guys have been playing within themselves, and now certainly not the time that you want to see guys start doing crazy things and taking crazy shots.
Yeah, and maybe a crazy performance will be needed from a Florida State standpoint. Like you said, if Miami just shows up, plays the way that they've been playing, they'll be fine. And I always think in a single game situation that you're looking at going into a game, I always feel like you want to be the team. Which team would you rather be? Obviously at home, the better team. If you just play the way you played, you'll be fine. Caleb Mills is coming off a big game for Florida State, a loss to Boston College, but he had 27, went to the free throw line 21 times. So that'll be something to watch for. Maybe if you're looking for a key of the game, kind of keep him off the line where he can get some buckets. But it's a big game. So kind of looking at big picture stuff. Again, Miami's looking to not only win the ACC first time since you were on the squad there in 2013, second time in school history. They only have 2 regular season conference titles in the history. They also won the Big East in 2000. So this is a big time, a big exciting time for Hurricanes. They're 23-5 overall, certainly in a good spot, not just for the ACC regular season championship, ACC tournament coming up in Greensboro, March 7th through 11th, but the NCAA tournament. Right now, Miami's 27th in net rating. Things that stand out to me there: 7-4 in quad 1 wins, 3-0 in quad 2, but 7-4. The 7 wins in quad 1, which always rotates the way that works. It's not necessarily just at that time. It can certainly adjust. So maybe you're 7-4 one day, but teams go up and down on the rankings. So it could be 6-5. Then it just depends. But the 7 wins currently, that's tied for 8th nationally. Miami's been pretty much in the top 10 with those quad 1 wins. So that certainly helps. Maybe your thoughts on where things are. Miami was just outside, in my mind, outside that top 16 on that midseason announcement from the committee with the tournament, but maybe where you think Miami could be as a national for the NCAA tournament coming up. What seed, kind of what are you thinking with the tournament there, with the way things are looking down the stretch of the regular season and with the conference tournament?
It's tough. I mean, I think that Miami in some way, shape, or form is always going to get a little disrespected and a little overlooked. So I think, look, back in 2013, we were the first team in history that won the regular season and tournament ACC championships outright and didn't get a number 1 seed. First time in history, would only happen to UM. So tough to say what the committee is going to look at and how they're going to evaluate us. But like you said, I mean, if we can get that second ACC championship regular season, let's see what we do in that tournament. I mean, there's no reason why this team isn't anywhere from a 2 to a 5 seed in the big dance. And honestly, that's a perfect seed for striking distance. I really think this team can surprise some people. Yeah,
and with the NCAA tournament, it all becomes on matchups and individual games, how you perform that day. A lot goes into it. There's reasons why there are upsets in that tournament. A lot of good teams. Everyone's good. That's the thing. You don't really sneak in seeding and things like that. The biggest thing I'm always paying attention to, and again, like you said, seeding is going to matter, or they could vary. You said 2 to 5, somewhere in there. Location's always big. They have a chance to play their first couple games in Orlando. That'll be something to pay attention to. In terms of location, always be good to play close to home. The other thing, Justin, and even a bigger thing, regardless of location, is how you're playing down the stretch. And Miami's 7-game winning streak currently ties for 10th nationally for the longest winning streak. Miami's playing really well right now, regardless, and we'll see how these next 2 games go moving forward, but they're playing well and they're healthy right now. Maybe just a little banged up. I've been at practice, but it's nothing big with these guys. They're still playing and doing well. Justin, I want to talk about some individuals here. Get your take on them. Let's start with Nijel Pack. Last time we talked, he was averaging 11.5 a game, 35 from 3. We both said in that our discussion, we both thought it's coming, and it is. And 16 points a game, 46% from 3 over the last 12 games since then. He's shooting the lights out, and having the backcourt with him and Wong, certainly impressive. But what have you seen with Nijel, and how important has he been during this Hurricanes run and this season at 23-5 so far?
He's been incredibly important. Like we talked about last time, I think I had said when we need it most is when I think he's going to start playing like he's supposed to, and that's what's happened. I actually notice him having a lot more confidence driving to the hoop as well. It's not just the 3 coming together now for him. It's him creating more, getting to the basket. We've had 2 dunks in the last couple of weeks out of him. I didn't know that he could. So it's been really exciting, but now having him as such a threat, not only from 3, but to drive the ball as well, and Wong right next to him, I mean, you kind of got to pick your poison there. It's going to be tough for any team. And we all know, I mean, it's a guard game, especially in March. So having that backcourt really gives us a lot of reason to look good.
And both guards play differently. We touch on Nijel, with his shooting ability, it's always going to be there. It's impressive, not just with his occasional drives, but he's stepping behind the line. He's getting a shot off. Yeah. He's not the biggest guy, but he's getting a shot off. He spots up. He knows when to shoot it. It's impressive. It should continue. He's just a good shooter. That's all it comes down to. And that's what I saw from his first couple of years at K-State and now here at Miami, shooting 41% from 3. He has a chance to crack the top 10 single season list from Miami's history. And that would be impressive considering his slow start there. Isaiah Wong, I've said it all year long. He's a potential ACC Player of the Year. And I feel like the Miami fan base at times gets a little frustrated with him, but it's like, look, man, this guy is right in the mix I have an ACC vote this year, and I've already been doing my research as I have all year, but he's certainly in that conversation. I do want to point this out in terms of the other guys I'm looking at. I want to get your take on your thoughts on Isaiah, potential Player of the Year, and certainly it's still games to go. But these are the guys that I'm looking at. Tyree Appleby, Wake Forest, with leading the ACC there. Quavion Smith has had a good year at NC State. Armando Bacot, Hunter Tyson at Clemson, but Clemson's been dropping down in the standings. And then Jamarius Burton is a guy that I thought has kind of really orchestrated that Pittsburgh team, even though Blake Henson was the leading scorer for most of the season, but with Burton doing his thing there. I want to point this out because I find this to be interesting in terms of coming from a winning team. Last year with Alondas Williams at Wake Forest, Alondas was the first player outside the top 4 to get Player of the Year in 7 years. And I think when you're looking at a potential Player of the Year, Isaiah's been Miami's best player. They're going to be most likely a top 4 team. And when you look at these other guys, Armando Bacot's the one that stands out to me. Had a great year. However, North Carolina is sitting there middle of the pack. I think without question, they've had a disappointing season. I think it's going to be tough for voters. I know me personally, for a guy like Bacot, who's played well, but the team has not done well, and they've been disappointing. So it's hard to really elevate him when you've got guys at the top. But your thoughts on maybe Isaiah, does he have a chance? Who are some other guys? Maybe just your thoughts on some Player of the Year consideration for Isaiah.
I mean, from that list that you just mentioned, there's no reason to me why he doesn't get it. With all things included, like you said, the ranking or the standing of the team, his contribution, I don't know. I mean, I think he deserves it. I think he will get it. Let's finish out the year strong, but he totally deserves it. I mean, he is the backbone to this team. And I know personally, when I'm watching every game, and it gets tight or he hasn't shot in a while, I just want Isaiah to get the ball and get us back into a good rhythm. So I know you mentioned some fans may get frustrated. I don't know. I don't see it. I think he's the centerpiece of this team. And without him, it'd be hard to have the same identity.
Absolutely. I think it's just, I think sometimes you look at every single play in basketball and not the totality. If there's a turnover or whatever it might be, or a missed shot. I mean, guys miss shot, guys turn the ball over, especially guys that handle the ball. It's just part of the game. I think sometimes it gets magnified too much. He's been lights out to me. I mean, 27 points the other day against Wake Forest in a big win. He has a chance these next two games. I think he's going to play well. Just recently, Jim Larinaga was mentioning, he just feels like Isaiah is going to be very difficult to guard. He made a strong statement recently down the stretch. He feels like he's just going to play really well. And Isaiah's delivered. And I think that's what we're going to see these next 2 days. I don't think there's any question that he's been the team's best player and leader. He's got the confidence. I think Nijel Pack's improvement throughout the year has been helped by Isaiah playing so well. I think other guys have done well throughout the year, obviously, Jordan Miller and Norchad Omier, but it starts with Isaiah, and he's been the leader. And I think, honestly, Justin, if we want to talk about Isaiah big picture, I said this during a podcast with someone earlier this year. I just felt like Isaiah, in terms of his value to this program, has been huge. He stayed with it. It didn't look good a few years ago. I think he deserves a lot of credit. Last year's Elite Eight run has never been done before. I think he's been a big part. And I don't know if enough people are really appreciating his impact on this program in the history. And he's going to go down as a possible, top 5 scorer in school history. So it's been impressive. It's not done yet by any means. If he wants to win the Player of the Year, I do want to make a note, Justin, on Player of the Year thing. Coming into the season, he was a preseason All-ACC pick. There's only one player that received more Player of the Year preseason votes, and that was Baycott by a long shot, 82. But Wong was second. So the voters are already thinking about Isaiah, which I think is a good thing. I think it can sometimes hurt you if you're not quite in the picture to begin the year. But he only had 5 votes coming in. But I think if you're looking at just a two-man race, and if we look at Virginia, Armand Franklin's played well. His offensive numbers, 12 points a game. I know Virginia doesn't score a bunch, but he's doing a lot. I just think Isaiah's done a lot more than him, and Kihei Clark certainly is a big impact guy at Virginia there. We've talked a lot about the backcourt. These other guys in particular, your thoughts on maybe some keys in this Florida State game with Omier, Miller, maybe it's one of those guys like Bensley Joseph who played well last game, or Wuga who's picked it up. Your thoughts on these other guys, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Miller also, as Coach Larinaga said, he's the most underrated player in the ACC, and it's true. Even us right here, not giving him enough time. He's been incredible as well. He's another guy, flies under the radar a little bit, but he's been one of the reasons for our success too. So I know he's going to keep doing what he's doing, have another couple strong games to close out the year. Omier has been incredible. I actually thought last game against Virginia Tech, numbers were incredible, 17 and 14, I believe, but I thought that was his worst performance around the basket. He doesn't typically miss those tip-ins or putbacks, and he missed quite a few. So he'll get back to himself. And I think both Wuga and Ben surprise us and have big time plays when we really need them. Wuga mid-range looked incredible last game. I was listening to the announcers. They were saying this is what Coach L wants. They want him to take these shots. I want him to continue to take them as well. And Bensley always comes up with a big turnover, a big defensive play. When I'm sitting at these games, right up close, you can see the guys on the other team, they want no part of him. They don't want to work against this guy. He's a pain in their butt. So more of that. And even Anthony Walker and Harlan Beverly too, they've been giving us some really good minutes off the bench, that both of them big plays at the right time. And that's why I think this team is the real deal, because you get that contribution from guys when you least expect it.
And one thing to stand out with Omier, he got benched there early in the game. That 17 of 14 performance, missed a couple layups. Larinaga benches him a couple minutes into it, and he responds. And I think Jim Larinaga is that's what he's great at. He really understands his players. He's okay with benching guys because he knows he can probably get them to respond in a positive way. And one of the things that he's done well again this year, navigating a season. They've had a great positive energy throughout, and now they're in a great position. So, Justin, I appreciate you doing this. We're going to keep these things going. A lot of excitement with Miami basketball, but I appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Chris. Talk to you later.